Tonight, the National Rifle Association has won a huge battle in Michigan. It concerns the rights of gun owners versus the public's right to know who owns a weapon. Governor Rick Snyder is signing a bill into law, keeping the identity of those who are packing heat private. Fox 2's Marielle Liu with reaction from one gun owner who is applauding the move.
If you were curious about looking up gun owners in your neighborhood, forget about it. Tuesday, Governor Rick Snyder signed into law an NRA pack of bills giving gun owners more privacy. These new laws make firearms records like licensing, registration, and concealed carry permitting, information once accessible by request under the Freedom of Information Act, now completely confidential, available only to law enforcement for investigative purposes. Bill Cusick owns Action Impact Firearms and Training Center in Southfield.
Our business is our business, and how many firearms a person owns, I think, is their business. And we got to keep in mind these are just handguns that are affected by this law. Long guns, rifles, are not registered in Michigan.
The new laws are a preemptive strike against overzealous anti-gun activists and media organizations. This map pinpoints the home addresses of every gun owner in New York's Westchester and Rockland counties. This interactive map was posted on a newspaper website in 2012, shortly after the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut. Gun owners across the country cried foul.
One of the gun owners makes the allegation that his home was targeted because his information was printed in the newspaper. I think since it happened there, it certainly raised the issue. And how many firearms I may own is nobody's business but my own. And you have to understand, there's some serious collectors of firearms, and they can have $1 million collection. And you start printing the fact that, you know, they've just registered 40 firearms, you might make a criminal target their home just for those firearms. So, and nobody wants those guns out in the street.
In a statement, the NRA praised Governor Snyder, thanking him for, quote, ensuring that law-abiding gun owners are protected from unwarranted scrutiny and discrimination merely for exercising their constitutional right to keep and bear arms. Marielle Liu, Fox 2 News.
But not everyone is applauding the governor's move tonight. And joining me live right now, Democratic State Rep Jim Townsend. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
You voted no on this bill. What bothers you about it?
Well, I think, Winston Churchill said that democracies die in the dark, and the last thing we should be doing, especially when we can't get around to fixing the roads, is to put more barriers in front of the public's right to know whether their laws are being properly executed and enforced. And we didn't need this bill. What we need instead is to close the loophole in the background check legislation that we have. There's a loophole in our background check system that you could drive an armored truck through. And that's what we ought to be addressing if we're doing anything with regard to gun safety.
It is my understanding that this law does not prevent police, from law enforcement, from releasing a gun owner's personal information about their weapons if they believe that person poses a threat to the public, or if they've used their gun in the commission of a crime. Is that the case here?
Well, the larger point here is that the public has a right to know whether the system we have in place for permitting, for checking backgrounds on people who are buying guns and trying to own guns is working. And when you close off the public's right to know, the media's right to inquire about these things, you really make it impossible for the public to know whether the laws are working, whether we have good gun safety laws in our state.
Well, the truth is that most of us don't know if our neighbor owns a gun or if the person perhaps walking down the street has a gun. Do you feel like this law now makes the public more vulnerable? Do you plan to fight it somehow?
Well, I think this is just the wrong direction to take. We have an epidemic of gun violence in this country, and one of the reasons we have that is that people can buy guns without having to go through a background check. When this bill was on the floor of the House, I offered an amendment that would have required that we pass a bill to close that loophole in order for this bill to take effect, and I couldn't even get a vote on that legislation. The irony is that at least 80% of Michigan residents support this legislation to get rid of or to close the loophole in background checks. That's the bill we should have passed, not this one.
Well, we know a lot of people have some very strong opinions about this, and Democratic State Rep Jim Townsend, we appreciate you coming in tonight, sharing your thoughts with us. Thanks so much.
Thanks very much for having me.
In fact, Fox 2 viewers are sounding off on our Facebook page right now, and Elise says, if I legally own a gun and I'm responsible, safe gun owner, it should be no one's business but my own. Jennifer says, what is the purpose of knowing if someone has a registered gun or not? So they know which house to rob? And Brad writes, Post the addresses of the people who are against gun owner privacy. See how they like it. And Glenn writes, people will just stop registering their guns. The discussion continues online right now. You can share your opinion on Facebook, Twitter, or of course, myfoxdetroit.com. We might even use your comments on the air.